There are many people on both sides of our shared border working with dedication and generosity to help us all through the coronavirus pandemic. From my unique vantage point as the Acting U.S. Ambassador to Canada, I see firsthand how every day individual Canadians and Americans, as well as the U.S. and Canadian governments, are working together during these extraordinary times. For both governments, our highest priorities right now are ensuring the cross-border flow of essential workers, getting our citizens home safely, and ensuring that medical supplies are reaching our communities that need them the most. Much of this coordination happens between government offices and between our embassies in Washington and Ottawa. But there are, of course, so many untold, inspiring stories about cross-border collaboration outside of our capitals, between local communities, businesses, individual neighbors, and even strangers. All of us at the U.S. mission to Canada are grateful for the essential workers, including the truck drivers and the agricultural workers who cross our shared border every day, and grateful for our Canadian and American border and customs colleagues who facilitate the essential trade that continues between our two countries. Like all of you, as I read media stories about the medical professionals on the front lines of this crisis, I quietly say a special thank you. Thank you to the thousands of healthcare professionals who are crossing the border every day to provide life-saving medical care. These healthcare heroes are working long hours away from their families and their loved ones to keep us all healthy and safe. Canadian and American businesses are leveraging their resources and their innovation in the fight against COVID-19. And it's deeply encouraging to see private U.S. and Canadian manufacturing and research firms working together to mobilize against the virus. For weeks now, the Canadian and the U.S. governments have also been engaged, always at an appropriate physical distance, working on how do we repatriate our citizens from often difficult and dangerous situations abroad. I'm very proud that several cruise ships carrying Canadian citizens, among many other nationalities, that had been denied the right to dock in other parts of the world were authorized by the U.S. federal and local governments to safely dock at ports in the United States and disembark passengers for their onward trips home, including home to Canada. This kind of cooperation is happening all over the world. Just last week, the Canadian and American embassies in Bamako facilitated the departure of 51 Canadian citizens and their family members alongside 145 Americans from Mali. Turns out neighbors help neighbors everywhere in the world. Leaders in capitals, public health, border and customs officials are all grappling with unprecedented challenges as they tackle this epidemic. So there have been, naturally in my view, some confusing moments or challenges to be worked out in the rush to achieve what is a shared U.S.-Canadian goal, the goal of getting medical equipment to the Canadian and U.S. communities that need it the most in this evolving situation. But I can assure you the U.S. government is working closely with Canada to ensure that coordination, communication, and cooperation happens when these challenges arise. Secretary of State Pompeo told Foreign Minister Champagne earlier this week, the United States will continue to work with Canada to ensure the viability of international supply chains for crucial medical supplies and for personnel, while we also meet the needs of communities on both sides of the border that are having the most severe outbreaks. President Kennedy very eloquently said about the U.S.-Canadian relationship that geography made us neighbors, economics made us partners, necessity made us allies, and history made us friends. With all due respect to the late president, I believe it is not just our history that lies behind our friendship. I think it is our shared values. the values of civic responsibility, caring for the most at risk, respecting every human life, that is also behind our friendship. And it is our continued commitment to those values that will get us all through this unprecedented crisis.